The biggest supervillains in the world are not human. They're corporations run by supervillain humans. But still, you get the point. And one of those corporations owns nearly our entire food system. This year, food prices have soared and Americans are feeling it. For example, egg prices have doubled since last year to nearly $3 a dozen, which is especially difficult if you make your living as an egg juggling busker down by the condemned jungle gym where kids go to eat lead paint, which I do. But the supervillain companies that set these prices aren't struggling at all. The largest one is Cargill, and this year Cargill's revenue jumped to a record $165 billion, $30 billion more than the year before. Wow, it's almost like they don't care that average Americans are suffering. How could that be? Corporate America is good and loving. Let's learn a little bit more about Cargill. Known to friends as the most evil company in the world and to enemies as something worse than that, Cargill Inc. is the biggest privately owned company in the US by a gigantic margin. And they own a large chunk of every portion of the food that ends up on your plate or dripping down your dining room wall if you get in a fight that night because your wife doesn't appreciate the casserole that you slaved over with the radishes cut into like little flowers, that means nothing to you? Well, then I'm just taking my half of the labradoodle and I'm getting the hell out of here. It's tough to overstate just how much Cargill owns. Cargill's major businesses are trading, purchasing, and distributing grain and other agricultural commodities, such as palm oil, trading in energy, steel, and transport, raising of livestock and production of feed, and producing food ingredients such as starch and glucose, syrup, vegetable oils, and fats for application in processed foods and industrial use. Cargill also has a large financial services. Okay, that's enough. Jesus. Basically anything stuck to the inner wall of your colon they had a hand in. Not a hand in your colon, but you get it. Oh, and also financial services is a euphemism for stealing your money via the stock market. Kind of like if someone stole your flat screen and called it television relocation services. Cargill owns some part of every step of how food gets to your plate, raking in hundreds of billions of dollars. And because they're private, they don't even have to report their finances and dealings to the public. So a lot of the internal scams and shenanigans that go on, they're kept secret. They don't show us how the sausage is made, figuratively or literally. But we do know the Cargill Macmillan family is the fourth richest in America. 14 of them are billionaires. And they're worth a total of $47 billion, and that includes Jebediah Cargill, who's the laziest member of the tribe, founding and managing an Amish electronics store that is slow going. Okay, yeah, I made him up, but I gotta amuse myself sometime. Fine, I'll stop. So when did Cargill start? Well, I take you now back to just after the Civil War. We were still cleaning the bodies off the farmland.
It all started in 1865. Company founder William Wallace Cargill set out across the American frontier with little more than an inventive mind and an entrepreneurial spirit.
And a lack of empathy indicative of a sociopath. They started as a grain storage company, but quickly went about buying up every aspect of the farm-to-table process. Not only did they own the transportation to get the food and grain across the country, they were also selling seeds and supplies to the farmer, storing the grain, selling tools to the mill, sourcing sesame seeds for the bakery, and selling curing salt to the deli. Basically, if you were a farmer or food distributor back then, or now, you couldn't find a way around paying Cargill at some point. Kind of like how the mafia used to make it so that no one could construct a building in New York without paying them at each step of the process. Oh, I get it. Cargill's a mafia family. Oh, God, I can't believe it took me that long to get that. As they grew, Cargill jumped into the commodities futures trading game, making money off stock market bets on the future price of things like wheat and grain. If you're a child of the 80s, you learned about it from the Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy film, Trading Places. But Cargill didn't want to just play the market like any old rube on the street. Do you think the mafia bet on a boxing match without threatening one guy's family? No! Cargill wanted to rig the game so they always win. They did this by buying up information and communication infrastructure so they could be the most informed and connected people in America on what was happening with the price of grain and wheat. That's right. They were betting on the price of the thing they themselves played a major role in supplying to the nation. Totally should be illegal, but totally isn't. Not when it comes to commodities trading. In the mid-1900s, Cargill could find out a grain shipment caught on fire. Then, when hardly anyone else knew it, they could bet grain prices were gonna go up. Then the prices would go up because, can you believe it? A grain shipment caught on fire. Doing this also meant Cargill could make money even when everyone else was suffering. They made money from the Dust Bowl catastrophe and the Great Depression. Efforts to regulate them failed. Congress was almost as good back then as they are now. And to this day, Cargill robs us on the stock market. Last year, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission ordered Cargill to pay $750,000 in fines for failures to report and supervise. Boy, that's quite a hard hit to Cargill. Oh, that's a tough pill to swallow. $750,000 is literally less than they make in 2.5 minutes. So I'm sure they'll never do that again, right? Just like when I got caught for $7 million in credit card fraud and Visa charged me a penalty of 75 cents. I think I learned my lesson. I would sooner make love to an electric eel than do that again. Anyway, Cargill kept growing through the 20th century and bought up a large swath of the meat industry. They now own 22% of America's meat market. For example, every sad, discolored egg that passes through a McDonald's and then passes through your body way too quickly came from Cargill. But we'll come back to the meat and eggs thing in a moment. Now, you may think that being a big company doesn't necessarily make you evil, and while I disagree with you, allow me to list all of the evil shit Cargill has done. To begin with, they actually profit from and help cause global food shortages. In 2007, the prices of rice, wheat, corn, and soybeans doubled and caused roughly 150 million people to join the ranks of extreme poverty. People were literally starving, and it's impossible to know how many died from that. The UN Special Rapporteur on Right to Food, Olivier de Schutter, concluded in a 2010 report that a significant portion of the increases in the price and volatility of essential food commodities can only be explained by the emergence of a speculative bubble, partially created by Cargill. For Cargill, the global food crisis was just another opportunity to generate bigger profits as growing numbers of the poor slid into chronic malnutrition. Wait a second, a food production company is benefiting from people starving around the world? That's preposterous. That would be like Big Pharma benefiting from people staying sick. Could you? Oh, I hear it. Now that I said it out loud, yeah, I hear it. That's what they do. Cargill was also accused of using child slavery in the Ivory Coast. They were sourcing cocoa farmed by children in the Ivory Coast who were unpaid, overworked, and abused. What's another word for unpaid worker again? Oh, a slave. That's right. Or an intern. But I don't think these were child cocoa picker interns in the Ivory Coast. I don't think they have an intern program there. Cargill then sold that cocoa to Nestle, who were more than happy to take that child labor chocolate off their hands. Child slave labor Kit Kats, they just taste better. I don't know what it is. Original name Kid Kats. Glad they changed that. That would have been awkward. The lawsuit just got shot down last year by the Supreme Court because Cargill and Nestle are corporations and not individuals. So thanks to Cargill and Nestle, it's now legal for an American company to use child slaves overseas. The fuck? And since pretty much anyone can pay a few $100 to found a corporation, like my personal Farty Pants Enterprises LLC, I guess we can all have slaves now. Ah, wonderful. Wow, how far America has come. We fought a bloody civil war to end the enslavement of African peoples in America. Now 9 shitty justices tell us we can go right back to it as long as we let the slaves stay in Africa. Cargill was also a major buyer of cotton in Uzbekistan farmed by, wait for it, child labor. Much like the rewriting of history to give oppressed people a revenge fantasy in Tarantino films, I'm noticing a theme. Cargill has also been involved in union busting in the US, not giving employees appropriate protective gear or time off during the height of COVID-19, and land grabbing in Colombia that set off a political storm. Oxfam reported, Cargill may have managed to evade the legal restriction through a method of fragmented purchases, exceeding the maximum size of land permitted by law for a single owner by more than 30 times. They did this by setting up 36 mailbox companies, basically front companies. Man, where have I heard of people using front companies before? Oh, the mafia! I'm noticing a theme. They also contributed to at least 650 deaths in Iraq and what's been called the Iraq poison grain disaster, massive deforestation in Brazil and Indonesia, extreme air pollution in the US and other countries, which is not a surprise since Cargill is one of the largest polluters on the planet, and to cap it all off, one of the largest ever tax evasion cases in UK history. Something tells me it wasn't like they forgot to declare a snow globe they bought on vacation in the British Virgin Islands. I feel like it was probably a little more than that. So as you can see, Cargill is truly horrific. They've monopolized much of our food system, they profiteer during the worst of times, and they commit a slew of other crimes against humanity and the environment. But in most of the extensive articles on Cargill that I read, and even ones that discuss how evil they are, I found only scarce mentions of the conditions of torture farming, aka factory farming. On factory farms, animals are subjected to routine mutilations, extreme confinement, and are otherwise manipulated to benefit human consumers. Many live their entire lives in cages so small they can't even turn around. They're pumped full of antibiotics so they can survive the disease-filled enclosures. Most of the pigs, cows, and chickens will never get to walk outside in a field for 1 second in their lives. And none of this bears reporting on the list of horrible shit that Cargill did? Not just a little blurb? The organization Animal Quality says factory farming is the largest cause of animal abuse in history. In history. And that includes the annual holiday when Albanians dress up their dogs as cats and their cats as roosters. And a large portion of the incredible factory farm animal abuse across America is thanks to Cargill. To put that into terms people might understand a little better, imagine you're walking down the street, like in your neighborhood, and you see someone just beating a small dog with a baseball bat. I think most people, I think you'd at least say, whoa, chill out, dude. Did that little guy steal your car or something? Just relax. Now imagine an executive from Cargill is walking around your entire city beating every single pet he can possibly find. So much so that he beats millions of animals every year. That's what Cargill is doing with factory farming. And yet almost no one is saying, whoa, chill out, man. Just take like an anger management class or something. And I haven't even gotten into the environmental impact of factory farming. Honestly, I'm out of time here, but just know it's one of the largest causes of global warming, water pollution, deforestation, air pollution, freshwater usage in the world. And when they aren't doing any of that, they're giving away the twist endings of movies you haven't seen yet. They are that evil. Point being, Cargill is no longer this early 1900s adorable American mom and pop success story. Yay! Now we can afford the dowry to sell our daughter to the neighbor. No, they're the largest private company in America, one of the largest companies in the world, and they are eating everything, digesting it, and then shitting out a destroyed hellscape. But there's a green leaf on the logo, so they must be good. That's it for now, but Most Censored News comes out twice a week if we can keep funding it. Thanks to you. We're completely independently funded. We're going up against the massive corporate media entities, so thank you for keeping us going. Check out the Patreon and also leave a comment. Let me know. if you agree Cargill is as evil as I have portrayed them, or maybe you disagree. Anyway, keep fighting.